Welcome guys to the occult. You might have heard lot of theories and stories about parallel universe, but in today's video I am going to tell you a true story about parallel universe with a proof. This story is of a person who claims that he traveled to parallel universe and while returning took Beatles album from there, which was never released or recorded in our world. The person didn't told his real name and wanted to stay anonymous for his safety. On his website he said that you can call him James Richards. James Richards said that he lives in Livermore, California, but on September 9, 2009 he was traveling back from Turlock after visiting a friend. James Richards was traveling with his dog and said that he didn't have any plans for the day, so he decided to take a ride through a place called El Puerto Canyon. He said that it was a scenic route and he will take this route way home. James Richards parked his car in the parking area of a restroom and let his dog out. James's dog suddenly started chasing a rabbit. James started running towards his dog so he can stop her from running far away. The uneven ground and soft dirt patches made it difficult to run, and it wasn't very far into the chase James Richards stepped in a rabbit hole, fell and knocked himself unconscious. When he woke up he was in a room with some furniture and electronics in it. He had a bandage on his head. He felt uneasy about the situation because where he fell and hid his head was in a very rural unpopulated area with no houses, but outside the window of the room he was in he could hear traffic. He decided to get up and look out the window, but the door opened and in ran his dog. When he looked up there was a man standing at the door. He was about 6 feet tall, had medium long black hair and was dressed casually nice. He introduced himself as Jonas and asked James if he was okay, which he said yes. Jonas said he found James unconscious in a field. James thanked him for helping him and his dog out. James asked him where he was. Jonas said about 20 feet away from where he found James. James said to Jonas that it couldn't be possible because there were no houses within at least 20 miles from where he passed out. Jonas took a look at the machine near the window and looked back at him and said he transported James into parallel Earth. Jonas said he traveled to our Earth dimension and found James knocked out in the blazing heat with nobody around to help. Jonas said he doesn't take outsiders through a portal, but in James's case he thought he needed urgent help. James asked him lot of questions about the parallel world traveling machine, and Jonas said that the machine can be easily purchased but is quite expensive. Jonas further said that the machine can be dangerous because there are infinite amounts of Earth and many of them have unknown dangers. They talked about a lot of things like foods, culture, TV, technology and the differences and similarities between their worlds. They started talking about music, which was an interesting topic because there were many of the same bands between their worlds that existed, including the Beatles. When Beatles' name got brought up, Jonas mentioned that his brother just got back from seeing them perform at a concert recently. James gave a weird look and said, "You mean they are still together?" And Jonas said yes. Jonas told James to follow him into another room that had a bookshelf with some cassette tapes and a tape player, though it didn't quite look like the type of one we have on the shelf. There were 7 Beatles music tapes, some of which were common between ours and Jonas's version of Earth, and some were totally different. James told him he should record him a copy of one of the Beatles tapes so he could take it back with him. The look Jonas gave James when he asked for a copy of tape is a part of the reason James is remaining anonymous. Jonas's look scared James, and Jonas refused to give anything to James. Jonas said he can't take anything to his world for his safety. James agreed to Jonas. After some time, doorbell ringed and Jonas left the room for checking who was at the door. At this moment James thought that it was a good chance to take something with him, so he grabbed one of Beatles' tape called Everyday Chemistry. When Jonas came back, James told him that he was hungry, so that they can get out of the room. The food tasted the same as in our world, but the colors were different. Like James said that the purple ketchup was strangest. After some time James said that it's getting late, so Jonas and James went back in the room with machines. James grabbed his dog and shook Jonas' hand for taking care of him. After he was knocked out, he stepped through the portal, which James said that felt like getting wet but staying dry the entire time. When James put his dog on the ground, she even shook herself like she thought she was wet. Back in his world, James saw his car exactly where he left it on the road. There were burn marks on the ground where the portal opened and some smoke. James then drove back to his home and listened to that Beatles tape from different world. The track names were written, as well as the album title Everyday Chemistry. The album has 11 songs in it. James Richards have a website in which he has told his experience and details. I will give you his website link in description so you can read his story in details. Well, this is it for today's video. Don't forget to tell your views in the comment. Thanks for watching.